in my Twitter feed because you're an MSNBC man. I'm a CNN girl. I've been watching just like 16 hours of this impeachment crap all day.
Yeah, I've been listening today.
Yeah, so on my way over here, I was looking at my Twitter feed, the two doors that I'd walk, and they were saying that Biden just got like an approval that there's going to be like 200 million more vaccines rolling out by April, like doses. So
Awesome.
Fauci was saying he's optimistic that by June we can have most of the, and I think that's going to be the biggest thing. Because
that's what I heard. Yeah.
What I've heard from the mayor and from the governor is we can't fully reopen until 80% of the city area is vaccinated. So this could go on forever because
but it's so important to know because again I'm half Australian, half American. I've spent half my life, and Mark, you've seen how well they've done under, right? Zero cases. Zero cases.
And Israel too. Israel's like amazing too.
South Korea.
Awesome.
South Korea. I'd go there. Yeah.
Yeah. So Naomi and I had a bunch of questions when we were talking. So, you sent your bio over and you kind of transferred to real estate. Over the years, I don't know if you've seen these studies, like top 10 most stressful jobs. And it's like doctor, lawyer, and event planner is always on there. I actually would think that real estate is stressful too because it's like, how do you make the sale? Do you think real estate is equal or more stressful or more relaxing? Tell us your thoughts.
Well, I would say it's different. It's very different and very much the same. In my role, I was primarily a salesperson and directed, a 15-person department. So the event part of it was sort of ancillary to actually booking things, kind of like you. But I would say real estate, what's stressful is you're an independent contractor. So much like Naomi, I mean, it's my own business. Even though I work for Baird & Warner, the Gold Coast office, I look right toward you and right toward the Ritz Carlton from my desk.
You being the place that nobody knows except us.
Correct. Correct.
You're in the building right between the dental building and Walgreens, right?
Above Neiman Marcus, yeah.
You're such a show-off, Christy.
No, Neiman Marcus used to be my mothership. Like, you don't understand, in the 90s and early 2000s. But I have to be honest, it's because I had my mom's credit card. But I was about to say. I work for a place that doesn't pay well. Anyways.
No, so it's basically that's what's stressful. And just at my advanced age, I mean, I'm not that old, but to learn all this new everything and to take the real estate class alone, I mean, that was just like getting a law degree practically. And I haven't been in school in years. It's so much legal stuff. And then you pass that exam and then you have to sit for the state exam because it's a it's a fiduciary job. It's a legally binding job. And so now I'm an independent contractor and I've wanted to go into real estate for years, but I was too chicken because they tell you, you don't, it takes a while to get things rolling. So I'm doing okay. I mean, I have not sold anything yet, but I have now 7 listings, which most newbies don't get. Most newbies don't get listings, but
no, they don't.
For whatever reason. But what's similar to our old world is it's all about prospecting and we call it our sphere of influence and reaching out to people that whether they're friends or family or previous clients or whatever, and just having conversations with them. And out of that, continues to build a relationship. So in terms of stressful things, I haven't gotten to that point yet, but things can get stressful if you have a deal and then their financing falls through or the inspection. I just heard a story where someone bought this $2 million condo and it needed a little paint touch up and the seller said they weren't going to do it. It was so minor they weren't going to do it. And the woman backed out. She's like, nope, then I'm not buying it, just out in principle. So you can do all this work and then something can fall through. So that I've not experienced yet, but that could be stressful, I'm sure. Those kind of things.
It seems like you've taken your real estate as high end as your Ritz Carlton in that 7 listings. Congratulations, Mark. That's so impressive. And also
Gold Coast, $2 million condos.
It's like, hello. When I built my bakery, I treated every client the same, whether they were from the South Side or a Ritz Carlton, and everyone had to pay unless I was donating to Planned Parenthood. Another story is they forgot to pick up their cakes once. I was like, why did they? And they were donated. That's pretty bad. But you do it so seamlessly and elegantly, and he looks great. He has the looks of a 40-year-old. This man, he's kept well. His skin, I don't
And
know
I'm
the
not.
secret. And what do you think your success is? I mean, do you think because you're humble or just it's
Hard worker?
You're just not blowing your own trumpet.
I don't know. I think just like thinking ahead, and like Christy and and you. I mean, you're always looking ahead. So you always, and I'm a worrier, which I think I always thought that was the key to my success in event planning and in business planning, because I always worry about everything. Not to the point where I'm ill, but I think for the client, or in my new case, I think for the seller or the buyer. And for example, I was given a lead for a woman who's looking for a condo in Evanston, and she's renting a condo. And I said, what do you like about where you are? Just like we would in the event world or the cake world. What do you like about it? What do you not like about it? And she said she loves it. And I'm like, well, why don't you try to buy where you are? I said, that's not going to help me in terms of a commission, but you don't have to move then. And she's like, you're the first realtor who was honest and said that. So, I mean, we are looking at stuff. We're going around looking at stuff, but I still think she should just buy her own place.
But that's how you build loyalty. And then she tells her friend, I met with this amazing real estate agent that was honest and didn't try and scam me.
My heart melted when I saw you. I was so impressed when you just did it, because so many people in our business are not. They're sitting at home waiting, just waiting. And I'm not knocking them, but it takes a lot of fucking balls to do what Marc did. I mean, to get up and just do it. And there's a few people that have, but I was really impressed, Marc. And
I'm more impressed with the real estate license so quick.
Yeah, so quick.
Oh my God, I have friends in real estate.
It was hard.
They had to take they had to take like the bar exam. It was like 2 or 3 tries before they passed it.
It's hard.
A crazy, like, I'm more impressed with, like, you got furloughed in March and by September you had your real estate license.
You've got 7 listings.
Like,
and
that's
also,
not normal.
And also you said you're married. How long? How long have you been married?
Well, depending what you consider, we've been together almost 33 years.
Oh, wow. And you're still together after the pandemic?
Yeah. We had a Jewish wedding 10 years ago. So we never thought of actually getting married. We're of the age, we're in our 50s. I'm in my 50s. But we never thought about it. And we were meeting with one of our rabbis one day, and Bill was Catholic and I was Jewish. And we just talked to her about, excuse me one second. Sorry, I'm having a little cat issue here.
Cute.
And she's like, why did the two of you get married? And honestly, we never considered it. It never crossed our mind. So we did a full-on, like what the three of us used to do, a wedding with an orchestra. You know what, though? We didn't have a wedding cake. Isn't that crazy?
It seems like so many in the business didn't. And if they did, I know you didn't.
I didn't want one.
We had desserts. We had lovely desserts, but
where was your
we got married at the University Club with Lachelle Lorenz.
I love the University
Who's an old friend of mine.
And who was your florist?
Mr. Tom Kehoe.
Oh, nice. Oh my God. Swoon on all those. I just look at Christy's events and yours and just woof. And your photographer?
And photographer was this is funny, this not old, he's young, but he was a server of mine who went into wedding photography many years ago, and he lives in South Bend by Notre Dame, and he came back to do it. His name's Peter Thurin. He doesn't really work in the city so much anymore.
I'm familiar. Talent is talent.
Lovely guy.
It's a small industry.
I actually think he has worked with
talented.
me once before. No, I mean, I think it's cool that he went. I went the easiest, quickest way I could get married. We also did a restaurant, but I did call in favors for my flowers,
You got to call in the favors. It's the time.
Yeah, I used a company that's no longer with us. Event Creative did my flowers.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Rest in peace.
But
as
you
well.
know what? My two of my favorite people from Event Creative are now at Frost, so I get to work with them all the time, and it makes me
awesome.
We're going to be welcoming them. They're going to be on our podcast.
You know, my sister, when we first moved to Chicago, my sister was going to school and she was working part-time, and she was working for HMR for a while.
Oh, yeah.
But back then it was just Heffernan and Morgan. It was before they switched up. But I remember she was on their like setup crew, and she did something at the Ritz, and it was for Oprah. And she was like, "You can't even tell it's the ballroom." I mean,
that was right before I moved back here. That's when I was in San Francisco.
All right, so
that was over the top.
Okay.
And Phil Gershman was the planner, and
yeah, but I remember her coming home like, "Oh my God, I've been working at the Ritz Carlton all day, and they do this and the events for Oprah." I mean, we were like had been in the city for like 10 whole minutes.
That's great.
I do have to say, in reviewing, and you know, I almost feel like we need to put it up on when we post this. Marc's resume is like crazy amazing, and I could have a whole podcast just talking about that. But you left Newport Beach in San Francisco to come back to Chicago. I'm not sure if I agree with that logic.
You know, it's weird. So to make it worse, we actually lived in Laguna Beach when we were in Newport Beach, because I didn't think we'd be there forever, but we were there like 6 or 7 years. And then there wasn't anything I didn't love about living in Southern California, but there was like, it felt like half our life was not existing because we're city people. Mm-hmm. So I got the opportunity to open the Four Seasons San Francisco, and we sort of thought that will be our Chicago in California, and not so much for me. Nope. I didn't love San Francisco. I loved getting to live there, and there's things I miss wine country, being able to pop up for dinner to wine country, but Chicago is so great. I mean, I couldn't wait to come back.
About Chicago now, I was there for 20 years, and then I've taken my little boy out, who's turning 13, to the suburbs because of CPS. Unfortunately, they just wasn't going well, and with the pandemic. But has the city changed a lot during the pandemic? You said you're urban. I mean, there's no theater, which breaks my heart. How are you and your husband finding the change in the city?
Well, I mean, the change because of COVID is yes. Huge. I mean, huge. And then, all the protests and things like that, but that, God willing, will not happen again. And the city is going to bounce back. I mean, the city is a wealth of culture, and museums are starting to open, and the theaters will come back. Thank God. That's like so much part of our life. We subscribe to 3 different theater companies. So I even said to Bill last night, I'm like, can you even imagine like being at a play and not getting home until 10:30? like I can't even imagine that. And I said, we may have to switch to weekends now that I don't have weekend nights, because I don't think I can stay up that late anymore.
That's hilarious.
But no, the city still is vibrant, and they in real estate, they like to talk about people are all moving to the suburbs, and there is some of that, but there's also people wanting more space in the city. So certainly the real estate market in the suburbs is crazy, and there's no inventory. Yeah, but the city, there's still people moving into the city.
Great.
There's people moving here from New York. Sadly, there's people moving here from California. The interest rates are so low. So there's all sorts of things happening. But no, I love the city, and I think it'll be back. I mean, it's just going to take a bit.
That's great.
I'd move back to the city in a heartbeat.
Oh yeah, I mean, my reasons was just for Mikey, and he did learn to ride a bike. So it was so urban. I mean, I've raised a very urban Chicagoan.
But I have to say, I would only move back to the city if I could afford to move back to the same neighborhood I lived in, and the cost. I mean, I was on the Gold Coast.
Well, we do have our realtor right here.
Yeah,
look no further.
We live in the western suburbs, and the real estate out here is just as shitty cost as it is in the city in the good neighborhoods. I mean, there's a house down the street from us that is like basically a shack, and it's going for $675,000, and the property taxes are $20,000 a year on it. Like, and it basically looks like a teardown. So it's not any cheaper to live in the suburbs, anyways.
No, it's not, and it definitely isn't. But Marc, our listeners would love to know for example, how much was that wedding that Rod Blagojevich hit on your friend?